You might have the game engine installed, a few tutorials saved, but still feel really scared to actually start. And this is exactly where I was before I released my first game, and I did everything wrong before I finally learned what real learning actually requires. So as I said, I was in a similar position just like you are in right now. I was stuck in what we call tutorial hell, which is a very common trap in game development. This is basically where you think that tutorials is the best way to learn, and you overline tutorials for your main learning instead of actually building project and experimenting yourself. When I was in this tutorial hell, which we call it, I felt very stupid because I didn't learn anything. So when I watched the tutorials, it felt very productive, I felt like I was learning a lot of new things. But when I actually went into the game engine and actually tried to apply the things that I just watched, I couldn't do it. So I just felt like I was stupid, I didn't remember anything, I didn't understand anything. I felt like it was a mistake that I made. But when I actually started experimenting just randomly, I actually figured out that these things that I experimented with were the only things that I could actually do and actually remember and understand. So that's when I figured out and did a little bit more research that active learning, which is where you build and do things actively, you learn by doing, is actually overwhelmingly and possibly the only way to actually learn game development, because this is the only way our brain is actually going to understand and remember the things that we do. So after I started this experimenting, I learned a lot of new things. I learned how to script and code the real way, and I actually learned everything that I needed to make my first game. And now I've released 3 games. So even though my journey might be a little longer than you, like I spent years being stuck, and I assume that you are more a complete beginner, I'm going to tell you like exactly what I would do if I were in your position, felt overwhelmed, didn't know where to start. I'll tell you like specifically how you're going to avoid wasting years and actually build a foundation to making games. And the first thing I would do is actually to watch an introduction video to the game engine of your choice. This can be for around 2 to 5 hours. This is basically where you just recognize the development process, like you know how like the game engine works, you know what the IDE is, you just install everything. You like recognize basic concepts. That's the thing here. It's not to understand anything, it's not to actually learn the scripting, it's not to learn like game development. It's more to actually just familiarize yourself with the concept and familiarize yourself with basic scripting. If you don't know the game engine to choose, I'll just recommend you use Unity. That's the one I use. It can like work with a lot of different games. But inside of SmartIndie, I also have a full game engine selection guide where you can like figure out what the best game engine is, like specifically for the games that you want to make. After you watch the introduction video, what I want you to do, this is very important that you do like immediately after, preferably immediately after you watch it, try to remember just a few lines of code that you did in the video and try to remember them and paste it into your own game, like make a new project, paste it in. Or if you remember like the entire thing, try to write it from memory. That's the best. And these lines of code, it should preferably do something like visually. Can be like extremely simple, like print a log or like move the player. Can be very, very simple, but just have a few lines of code pasted in. And what I wanted to do with these lines of code is just to break them, experiment with these lines of code, experiment with adding new things, just guess your way through things, change the parameters and change the values of these things. Just try to break them and figure out why they broke and change it, figure out why the thing is changed and what happens when you do. When you do this, it's going to be very simple and easy, like you know exactly what to do because you have these lines of code that you have already like recognized. And when you like experiment with the things, you try to break it, you reflect on why they broke and you experiment around these lines of code. You're going to like transfer from recognizing the thing to actually understanding it and be able to use it practically and in more possible situations, and you're going to remember it so much better. And throughout your entire learning journey, I just want you to remember that struggle means good. When you struggle with something, when something is hard, when you just want to leave your computer and search for a solution, that's when you actually are going to learn. You aren't going to learn when you just watch these easy tutorials. I'm telling you, I spent years stuck thinking that was the case. Using easy tutorials, using AI, you won't learn anything from now. You're actually only going to remember when you restrict information and you struggle with things. Okay, that's awesome. Now you know actually where to start. But there is one thing that could possibly save you years as well. Like I think these 2 things I'm going to mention in this video, like first the introduction video, how you're going to learn, as well as this one thing I'm going to tell you now is going to be the foundation to actually becoming a game developer and releasing your games like really quickly and actually like getting skills really quickly. So how do you do this? Well, you already know the effective way to learn. You're already like ahead of 95% of other beginners. But if you want to become like the top 99% of beginners, then you're going to do this. You're going to make finishing your first game your number one priority. We can only have one priority in our life, but it should be your priority. Why am I saying 99%? Well, 99% of beginners, they never release a single game, even though it's not that hard when you know like the right way to learn. But a lot of people, they struggle with, for example, perfectionism, where they think, well, the game is not going to be good, so why should I release it? Or they just think that they don't have the skills, even though they actually do, where you might just want to make a smaller game. That's a solution. So a lot of people, they have these limiting beliefs that the game is not going to be good, I don't have the skills, blah, 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 blah. And they never release their first game. They just make these prototypes, they make these small systems forever, they never publish it. And in turn, they never get opportunities. Every game you're going to release on like a store is going to be one lottery ticket, and it could give you opportunities. First of all, it's going to give you the knowledge that you need. Like actually publishing a game is completely different from making prototypes and unfinished projects. You're actually going to get experience with publishing the games, and it's going to grow your portfolio, like you have something to show for it. As well as when you are a bit more advanced, you made like 2, 3, 4 games, then you get more opportunities from it. You can actually start earning real money, and you get this lottery ticket that I talked about. People very much can actually enjoy small games, even though they might be bad. For example, if you make like a co-op multiplayer game, then it's very easy to make. You can just download basically everything from online. You just need to have a good idea. And I just wanted to know, you're not a game developer before you release. So once you release your first game, which inside of SmartIndie, we aim for to do within 60 days. If not, then I'll coach you for free, because I'm so confident that you will if you join SmartIndie. Around 60 days, I think, is a really good milestone. Before that, you're not a game developer. You can't call yourself a game developer if you haven't released a game. So once you release your first game, you're officially a game developer, and that's going to be like the first major milestone in your game development journey. That's going to be to release your first game. So everything that you do, just fully focus. Will this be beneficial for my first game? And is this relevant for my first game? Make like experiment prototypes that's relevant to your first game, and have that as your priority. Either way, if you actually apply these two things, you're going to learn so much faster. If you want this entire journey from being where you are right now to releasing your first game with all the other bonuses and the community you get inside of SmartIndie as well, then it's the first link in the description to join. It's more information there, and I'll see you inside if you want to join. Either way, I want to say thank you for watching this video.